So in this example, I'm going to show you that how we could, demo the error in a particular program. This is not the actual error. This is just the, the, you could say, the sample. But in an actual scenario, this will be different, and you are going to, have a different kind of error once you will start, implementing a bigger project with the different modules. So public class error test error. So I will say public static void name, okay, string args. I will simply say throw new java.lang.error class. Let's save it. So I'm going to save it inside Java programs. Java save it cmd Java program Java C error test or Java error test. So it has thrown one error, that is exception in the thread. This is error. So if you see it, I just throw this error. So this is, I mean, you could just demo it. This is just the demo purpose. In actual error, it will you will not get this kind of error. In many cases your JVM will shut down, or your complete system will shut down. So a program, or whatever the program you are running, jar file, that will shut down. So that kind of error you will get there. So for the exception, how do you know that there is going to be any error or the exception? How you will know that? That is very important part. So in many cases, because you are just learning it, you will not know it, that what kind of error or exception will come here. So for the learning purpose, I'm just giving some usual scenario where you will get it. So for example, public, I'm just giving one example, uh, divide by zero. This is, I mean, the most common example that usually people give it. So public static void main string, because what many new into the Java programming people say, that how do we know that there will be any exception, and how we will catch it? uh, what happens is, like, because you are learning right now, you will not know whether, like, what kind of error or exception will come. But with some experience, once you will start writing the program, and you are going to do more programming and more scenarios, you will automatically know that, okay, this could happen, or that error will, once you will run it, you will get that error, then you have to manage it. So how do you how you are going to manage that error or exception? That is the, try catch is the only way to manage it. So that's what you need to remember. So for example, if I'm giving one example, integer a, let's say, and I'm saying 200 is divided by 0, right? Let's save it. Like, what will happen? So dot java java c divide by 0 java c. At the compile time there was no error, right? But when you are going to run it, you will give this error, arithmetic exception divide by 0. right? But how a normal any common user will know that this error is something relevant to him? So what we could do is, like, as a programmer, because as a programmer we know that if some number is divided by, if you are going to divide some number by the zero, there will be the divide by zero exception. But how a common user will know? So in that case, what you could do is you could simply say try. You could wrap it up in a block, which we say it try catch. See, in this way, and inside the catch I will say divide by zero exception. Let's say the exception, and see the exception name divide by, no, not divide by, but it is arithmetic exception. See, uh, it's difficult to remember all the exception, so it is a arithmetic exception. So I will simply say out.println. I will simply write the message, uh, any number is not divisible by zero, so please um, divide number by greater than zero value, right? If I will give this message, I will compile this program, right? So for a common user, this message is more relevant than this message. So this is how we handle. So now you will say, like, okay, this message is also a user can understand, or maybe he could put some effort to understand it. See, for example, if you are going to an ATM, and you are withdrawing your money, or maybe you are going to the bank and you are depositing your check, and you want to withdraw the cash from it, and you will get some error message like, okay, 001, this arithmetic code, right? Maybe you don't have the balance, right? But you are getting some kind of error message, because this usually happens, like if there are a lot of error and the exceptions. In that case, what programmer do is, like, they decode, they actually send the number code instead of sending the lot of messages, because it could be a lot of messages, right? So instead of that, they simply send the number. So it's very difficult to understand it. But in that case, you will simply send the message like, okay, you don't have the sufficient balance. Or maybe you will say, like, okay, the currency that you are trying to withdraw, that is not allowed, right? Maybe you are living in US, and you are trying to withdraw the Australian dollar, right? Or vice versa, it could be, right? So in that case, the message should be relevant or easy to understand for a common user, so that he could understand, okay, this is the message and this is the meaning of it, right? So it's very important to manage it by the programmer, instead that we put this to the user, that let's throw this whatever the system is sending the error, and let him understand. So that is why we do the handling. So the exception handling is done by the try and the catch block. Remember this: try, catch. Whatever error comes under this block, from starting from here to here, it will simply catch and throw the exception, right? And based on the exception, we could simply print the message. In many cases, what happens, this is not the right way, but in many cases what happens, if you don't know what is the exception, then you could simply send the exception. Why? Because exception is the parent of all other exceptions. How we could do the exception handling. But what if this particular logic is there in some other method? For example, let's say there's a class, and I will say divide by 0 and I'm saying public void divide. Let's say this logic is written in this particular class in this method, and what I'm doing is I'm divide by 0. Let's say make it test, right? And I'm saying uh, divide by 0 dbg equal to new divide by 0 class, and I'm saying dbg dot divide. Let's save this with different name, save as test dot java, java c divide by 0 test dot java, java c divide by 0 test. See, uh, class name divide by 0 are only accepted if annotation processing is explicitly requested. Annotation processing. Oh, sorry, that is Java. See, it's the same program. The only difference is I'm calling it from here. What if I don't want to handle it here? I just want to send this message wherever you are calling this particular method. I don't want to handle it, here. I want to handle in a particular location where it is being called. So what I could do is like I could simply throw. I will just throw this error, this exception, and I have to add one more throws exception, right? Now let's save this. Let's see what happened. See, it is saying symbol method in the class divided cannot find the symbol exception through. Okay, throw new exception. I think I have to import it as well. Unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown, right? So wherever I'm calling or wherever I'm calling that method or wherever I'm throwing this error, actually I'm throwing this error to this place where this particular method is being called. So I have to handle it actually there. So I have to say here try catch and I have to say exception ex or whatever the message I want to print. So for example I want to print this message again. Oh, control change. Or I could simply say system.out.println. I will say ex.get message. Let's see what happened. Java C, Java C. So whatever the error I have shown from here, that exception is being caught here, and the message whatever the message I am sending from this particular constructor. If you see, this is a class. I'm passing the constructor value. I am getting it here x dot get message. I am getting it here and printing it here. That is also possible. We could do it. So there are two new keywords. That is, one is the throw, another is the throws. So this is how you could handle it. Let's say there is another exception arise. and you don't know what that particular error is, then what you will do? Or there will be situation like, for example, after this particular exception being called, you want to do something else, then what, how you will handle it? So there is a keyword finally. If you will add this finally, see, finally has only the block, and at any case if you want to run that particular logic, then you could add the finally. In this case anything will happen, but this particular block will execute. There is a guarantee that this will execute. See, this will execute. So you could define, you don't need to depending on the default exception classes, you can define your own exception class as well. So for example, my exception extends exception class, exception class, and what I will do is like I will say my exception, I will simply string message, I will simply pass this message to super, that is the exception class message, right? And let me save it, my exception. Okay, and instead of sending the exception class, I could use my own exception as well, and here also I could use my own exception. So let me compile this. See, so this is how you could, there could be variety of different implementation of your exception class, but this is the basic idea that how we handle, how we create our own exception. I don't want to be go into the deep into the exception, the variety of exception handling, because until unless you are not going to implement in an actual program, you are not going to understand it. So I'm just ending this session here, but on a further session we will definitely going to discuss more about the exception and the exception handling. This is the end of this topic. For more videos like this, please like, share, comment and subscribe my channel. I will see you in the next video with another interesting topic. Thank you for watching my videos.